Well, welcome back to another video. Today we got the Nikon ZF with the Zeiss 55 f1.8 adapted. Of course, adapted. Well, one of you wrote me via Instagram and asked me about the photography capabilities of this setup. The Zeiss 55 adapted. Well, it looks alright. It looks good, actually. Problem being, it works better with autofocus wise when in video mode. In photo mode, it sometimes has some, how do I call it, some difficulties, right? So either it does not work at all, or it misses the focus perfectly. What the hell? You see, buy cheap, you buy double or even triple. I don't know if there is an English saying about this. In Germany we would say, kaufst du billig, kaufst du zweimal. And it's true. It translates to you buy cheap, you buy twice. This is what I did. Alright, today I want to talk about, well, why did we start? Why did we start photography? Why did we start videography or whatnot, right? And I brought some cameras with me that I got. Some pretty old ones and some still good ones, in my opinion. And I wanted to talk about why I started photography or why I started video making back when I was about 16 or 15 years old. When I started photography, I was pretty young. I got my first camera when I was 5 years or 6 years old. It was a Christmas gift. It was an old plasticky camera with film, right? Later I got the Zenit E. That's a camera from the former Soviet Union. And with this camera came the Helios 44-2. It was the kit lens, so to say. So I started photography with this setup. And it was damaged. You could say, of course it was damaged, but you see, it got a lot of light leaks. And these were annoying, to say the least. I was just about 10 at that time, 11. So after that, and I could not use the Zenit E anymore, my father gave me his old MTL5. So I made photos with this for years, It was about 1996. I still own this camera and it still works, kinda, and I still own the lenses. It's the Oreston Pentacon, right? The 50mm 1.8. It's a pretty good lens, and also the 30mm f3.5. Well, I do not like this lens particularly, but it has a good look. So, for me, since growing up like that, the recording just stopped. So it's not that reliable. I was saying, growing up like that, I was used to film, and I loved film. I loved old film cameras and the noises they make. Later, I got my first digital camera. It was a Ricoh. It was a flat one. I cannot remember the name, but it was a flat one with a tilt-up screen. And I think it was about 3 megapixels. Yes, JPEG. The JPEG, it stopped again. Don't buy this. Do not buy this. It's not reliable. So it was the Ricoh with flip-up screen and so on. It had about, the JPEGs had about 70 kilobytes. 70 kilobytes of size. Well, after that, well, I was still shooting film at that time, and digital was just, it was new and it was kind of funny. But I shot still film, and then I started videography in 2002 with an old camcorder from Panasonic. I still own this one. And I started to make some short films of my friends and of what we did. We were free riders, like mountain biking, urban free ride. I think it's called jibbing. And I made all the videos about that. Then I made some short films for school, and yeah, that's how I started with videography. And it was because of the movie The Blair Witch Project that I watched years before. I was so amazed with video. I don't know. It was just a feeling. I had to do this, right? Maybe you can relate to that. Let me know in the comments. Maybe we can talk about this. It could be an interesting conversation. In 2007, I got my first digital, DSLR digital single reflex camera. It was a Nikon D40 CCD sensor, 6 megapixels. And I also got a Casio, a small one, an Excellent, the red one. It's pretty rare nowadays. They're pretty expensive too. So I got these cameras. Oh no, we learned something from eating Chinese food, right? So, and I got this camera, and then I was able to try out all these things like continuous bulb shutter, right? And I could do some artsy projects with this camera. Well, if I found some pictures, I already presented you these pictures in this video, right? If you have seen some of these pictures already, then I found them. But by that time, I was still also shooting film. And I was then later, because in 2006 I started university, I studied law at university. In Germany we say Jura. And so my focus was on studying, kind of. It was more on having fun with my friends, but still studying. And so in 2013, when I was finished with everything and I tried to do something different than sitting inside an office, I decided to become a real estate agent. And in Germany it's different. In Germany we get an education in what we do actually, and we do not just do it. So I did this until 2014, and then I started my own photography company. My studio, I had a photo studio, and I made fine art portraiture. That was what I did. And I did it with an old Mamiya RB67 that I also bought in medium format. And this is true medium format, 6 × 7 centimeters. That's a slide. The slide is bigger than the monitor of DZF. And this is the look that I always describe as medium format look. And I do not believe that modern day medium format cameras can produce that look. So the word is not correct in this case, because they are all medium format, like the Hasselblad or the GFX of Fuji. But still, they don't have a medium format look. Anyway, but I used this camera for photography. And I love the look. In 16, 17, I started my commercial pilot license, and I had no time anymore for photography. It was almost 4 years in, and so I became a pilot.
Delta Echo Echo Mike Uniform, hallo?
Delta Echo Echo Mike Uniform,
So, jetzt haben wir hier, sehen wir mal kurz über die Innenstadt, ja?
And did it for a few years until our, governments decided to shut down. You know what I'm talking about, and you know that we cannot talk about this. So, that's how free we are, right? We are free. Oh yes, we are. But that's about it, right? And then I restarted photography. I had a large property with horses and a forest and so on in the Harz Mountains in Germany. And after that, when I bought this house here, then I started again. And I was interested again in photography. Of course, I sold everything that I had. I sold my good old D800. I sold my AX33 camcorder. I loved that thing. That was a mistake, pretty much. I got all these different lenses. I got a Sigma 150 to 500 and so on. It was pretty nice stuff. But I thought I would not use it anymore. That's why I sold it. But still, there is something in my bag that I want to show you. The reason why we all started, and this is different for each and one of you, each and one of me, well, it's different for everyone. For me, it was a feeling, it was intuition. I did not want to know everything about everything. I just wanted to show it in a way how I see it. I wanted to entertain. I wanted to be sure that my family and friends, that they got some memories, right? And I was able to present them with memories by shooting film, by filming in general, or just by photography. So that was why I started. And the documentary style of video, I started because of the Blair Witch Project. Yes, quite simply so. I was about 14 or 15 when I watched it, and I had some kind of love inside of me. It was just intuition, and I wanted to do that so bad. And I love cameras, I love lenses, I love camcorders. I love cameras in general. Doesn't matter what it is, film, digital, camcorders, doesn't matter. I just love the equipment and I love what it can do. It's not about the specs. One of you commented on one of my videos about the Panasonic S1. If I was sleeping under a rock for the last years because I, well, did not talk too good about the autofocus system of the S1, and I still don't. It cannot be that, it cannot be. But nonetheless, for me it is not about the perfect autofocus, it is not about the latest specs, and of course I was under a rock because I did different things, like flying airplanes or keeping horses or dogs or whatever. So I was busy doing different things and was not up to date. But of course I did not expect the autofocus to be good on the Panasonic S1, but still I did not expect it to be that ass. Nonetheless, it is about the looks that it gives me, and I like the look of the Panasonic S1 very much, and the video look too. I like the handling of this camera because growing up with heavy and clunky cameras, like for example this one. This is a Canon 5D Mark II, right? And I got the 50mm 1.4. Well, there's not much pop, to say the least, but still I like the combo. It produces very nice pictures and I like the look of the pictures. Of course, the autofocus is slow, and this is, well, euphoric. It's slow, but still the look of the RAW files and the JPEG files, black and white, it's, for me, I love that look, right? It's different. Then, what do I have here? Well, it's different than the D200. Kind of a legendary camera, isn't it? Well, at least that's what people say. It's a CCD sensor. And it's APS-C, of course. And it still functions. This crapper is about 20 years old. And it still functions. And I really like the look. It has a max ISO, usable ISO of 1600. But still, this camera is pretty good. And I like the images. And I like the flexibility. You see, some days I just decide, today I will use this or that camera for the day with this or that lens. And this is something that I did when I was younger because I had no choice. Because I only had one camera and one lens, or maybe two cameras and a lens each. And I do this still today. Like today I decide to take out the D200 with the best 35mm in the affordable price range, the 35 1.8 G lens. This thing is pretty amazing. It's pretty good. And combined with the D200, it's wonderful looking. And even on full frame, this lens has just a slight vignetting. So you can use it, I say you can use it on full frame. That being said, how about this one? This is the good old D3. Of course, it still functions, it's still wonderful. And I really like the form factor of this. I always used the battery grips because I do not like to handle small cameras. And nowadays, every camera is small. The ZF is not that small. It's built like an old Praktica or an old Nikon film camera. But these, you feel that you got a camera in your hand. You can combine this one with a 35, or, and I would suggest you do that, look at that, the Nikkor 50mm 1.4 D lens. This lens has 3D pop. It renders so good. I really love this one. That's one of the best 50mm for Nikon, in my opinion. Of course, it's not a 58. That's a legend, but maybe an overpriced legend. But this one, the 50 1.4, is fantastic. And the autofocus of the D3 is good too. Of course, it's not up-to-date fast, but if you use cameras like this for the nostalgic effect, for the nostalgic look, and the pictures look different, of course. The sensors, they render differently, and I really like it because it reminds me of the film time. Really, it does, right? Opinions vary about this, but in my opinion, it does. So, for me, this is almost a perfect camera. 12 megapixels. The D200 has 10. It's more than enough if you know how to photograph, I would say, if you know how to do photography. If you don't, then you need a 40 or 60 megapixel camera. You just take a picture, clack, and listen to that. Is there an, yeah, it is. Let's see. Let's give it a sound check, shall we? Oh. Let's give it a little bit slower. Right? So, but if you know how to do photography, then you do not need to crop that much, right? What happened here? I need some pine cones. Doesn't look too good, does it? Well, slightly better. It is about the nostalgic effect of this, right? So, I like the older ones. And I got another one here. This one was my first ever studio camera. It's a Nikon D7000. And this camera is flat, I believe. The picture is to be flat. It's not especially good. It's not a especially good camera. No, it's not about that. Well, it was fast enough, and it is good to learn photography. It's APS-C, 16 megapixels, so it's not that cramped. Still flat though, even with the 50mm 1.4D. But for me, it has a nostalgic value. All these cameras have a nostalgic value. And I like to shoot old stuff, old lenses, old cameras, old DSLRs. Film cameras not so much because it's almost unaffordable and takes forever to develop film. Of course, yes, I could do it myself, but I don't want to, right? I want to spend my time on other things, but still. These cameras are fantastic, and they are not outdated. Outdated would imply that they are not usable anymore, but they are, and I use them, right? Sometimes today I will use the Nikon D7000 with the 35 or with the 50, and then I will do all the photography stuff with only this combination. And this will help you, in my opinion, if you are younger, to develop an eye. And for photography, you need an eye. You do not need the perfect setup. You do not need the perfect lens, perfect camera, whatnot. You don't. You need an eye. Photography, just painting with light, but you have to get a feeling for light in photography. And well, in videography too, at least in cinematography. If you're doing videos like this, you do not need an eye really. But for photography, you really do need an eye, and you train it not with a telephoto lens like a 18 to 300. You don't. Change your angle. Try to get everything you need with the same exact lens. Try it out, and you will see that you will learn how to see. So you can see almost as if, my friends always describe that when I'm using a camera, it would be like an extension. It's just, I really get into that camera. I really get into it and just see and feel with the camera in front of my eye. I never use the screen on the back, not even with the modern cameras. I always use the viewfinder, no matter how difficult the angle might be. Sometimes you have to crawl like our mighty friend the worm. You have to get the photo right, or you have to guess, right? You get a feeling for angle and so on, and then you guess, so you can shoot from the hip, so to say. So this is what I would suggest you do if you want to start photography. Get an old camera, get an old DSLR, learn photography, learn how to see. Just buy the camera and one lens, that's it, right? Have fun, that's the most important part. Have fun. Yeah, it's like owning a property and owning a house with a large property like I do. It's not fun. You always have something to do. And then there are mice, sometimes rats, there are raccoons, minks, the whole cast of Bambi. visits me from time to time. After the last winter, I noticed that some foxes used my yard as a dining room. There were skeletons of fawns and so on. Well, you see, you've always something to do. I've got about 100 meters of hedge, about 2 meters high. So, as I was saying, just have fun with it. Take an old camera. The D200 is enough. I think it costs about $80 or so, or even less, right? Or even a D40 is enough for that. I'm debating buying one again. I sold mine 2013, I believe. I'm debating buying it again because it was fun using it. The pictures looked fantastic. So this video wasn't about photography technique, wasn't about lenses, wasn't about 3D pop. Not really. It was about photography and why we started. And let me know your story. Maybe we can talk about it. I'm always interested in hearing the stories of other people, right? How they came to something, why they did what they do, and so on, right? So let me know. Other than that, enjoy the gear you have. I already said that. Try to make the best of it and just have fun. That's the most important thing, right? I look like I need head and shoulders. But since I got no hair, there is no need for head and shoulders. That being said, one love. See you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Next time I think there will be either an autofocus video again or some 3D pop or camera related stuff. This was kinda, well, just a reminder, a nostalgic reminder of why and how I started at least. And I wanted to stir up in you how you started. We sometimes forget these things with all the new technology and AI bullshit and so on. We forget what was really the reason. Why did we start? What was our intuition telling us to do? And why did we do it? Right. So, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know and see you in the next one.